여기 한번 바라볼까요? 자, 이제 ATD 참여를 위해 출동하도록 하겠습니다. 가자! 입장하는 거 부탁드립니다.
How we leverage technology to be future ready. We're never all the way there. We're always aspiring, building, trying to figure out what's the latest and greatest. We'll speak to where we are on a particular journey. We'll also speak to things we're thinking about, the kinds of conversations. And you can imagine as topics of artificial intelligence, generative AI is likely to be the biggest buzz of the week while we're here. So certainly that's going to show quite a bit. And we'll talk about some of the business goals and the different practices that we have. And pull a quote in from Tony Bean. This is fairly new from a research article that ATD put out in research.
And for us, we've looked at how do we employ and use skills as this common thread, this common language throughout our systems, throughout our LMS, throughout our LXP, throughout the conversations we're doing. Every course that we offer through our catalog, whether it's through an internal developed, adjunct facilitated, or external delivery partners, all of them have skills aligned to it. We've sort of normed around a very large, but still somewhat contained skills platform. So by doing this, it's enabling us to be future ready as we're looking at and exploring additional technology. Where do we need to go? What needs to be added to our ecosystem? What needs to be sunset from our ecosystem? And how do we drive this employee experience? Jim, you want to add anything to that?
I'd say as we'll talk about some skills, we're going to talk about also taxonomy. And it's a key word, right? Do we have a taxonomy? So several years ago, we adopted a taxonomy where every child family has a set of key skills connected to it. And so we've empowered all the employees, which I mentioned, as they go update their profile, they speak to all the skills that they have within the taxonomy, and then they can add to that as they acquire it over time. And then that taxonomy, we have a governance process. Right? Every year, we're taking a look at all the roles and what needs to be updated in partnership with the business. The business we need, so we create this learning navigator. This is how we point you to everything. And we look back in time and kind of chuckle of what we created and maintained. You know, this had a shelf life of not even a year before we're constantly changing and evolving it. This shredded, static course catalog. Anybody have a course catalog in print form?
Jim, we're evolved. We have a digital version of the course catalog.
Yes. So, we've had these over the years. Do we have one now? No. We no longer have an official catalog that looks like this. It was impossible to manage and maintain throughout the time. Speaking of skills, so we had hundreds of job families a couple years ago. And then this is a static document where we had a role description, we associated the skills, and then what it should look like. And then the key word is integration. How do we then start to integrate? And then obviously when you learn at the beginning skills being the common thread, where all the touch points and connections to enable that. And then we also were thinking about analytics. How do we tell the story of what talent development looks like? We'll speak to that in a second. So this was kind of the critical moment. So where are we in that journey? I think was once we had the aha around the skills, and then we spent a lot of time thinking about the technology to get us there. That was kind of the key moment. And we're still evolving in many places. And what's really scary is for the changes we're going to see in the next 2 years is going to surpass what it took the last 10. And we are evolving our entire career framework this year. It's a huge undertaking. And now we've got to be thinking about, as we talk all to the vendors around here this week, like what's happening in that space. Right? And now we're really going to pay attention because generative AI is really going to influence a lot of what we're saying. So while I think we made strides, it helps position us to be future ready. We'll go there next.
So a little bit of an interactive. So your arms, if you're able, get them warmed up here. How many of you have a map of your learning ecosystem? Okay, good number. How many of you have an LMS? Oh, more, okay. How many of you have an LXP? All right. How many of you use some sort of subscription platform or service provider? All right. How many of you have a HRM or human resource system where your people data is stored? Great. So I think that's really important and would be my recommendation on this learning journey of implementing, using, making benefit of AI. Step number 1 is to start to map out what is your learning ecosystem. What are the systems? And this is the challenge. Come at it from your learning. Come at it from your employee. Come at it from that perspective. What are the systems they use to gain new skills, knowledge, or participate in training in your organization? Then take that list and look back at your learning ecosystem now. We were surprised. Perfect example. We don't often consider Outlook, MS Word, MS Excel, and PowerPoint as learning platforms and systems, but they are. And so we've done that, and we understand the pros and cons. What are the benefits we can use and leverage and design for collaboration? And so we've been forced to that as our business has transformed many of our virtual collaboration tools over the last 3 years. And being able to do that has forced us to build and maintain a learning ecosystem map. And through that, we've been able to establish a vision. And it's not just a vision of where do we as a talent development L&D organization want to go. We're one part of that. And we may be the largest part of that train. But we also have our talent management. We have our executive development. We have our HR. We have our integrators that are now all part of our vision. And we're moving that forward in order for us to truly do an enterprise perspective on what does talent development really mean and how do we use technology to deliver that to our employees. So our journey started with a conversation amongst some of our directors that were meeting and saying, how are we going to do this? How do we conceptualize this? Stepping away from systems, stepping away from the what is, stepping away from all of the bombardment of ads and we can do this for you from our vendors and providers, we had to get down to a basic conceptual model of what does talent management look like? What is our talent management philosophy? And so we said workforce planning is at the top. That's a big driver in our business. It's a big part of what we do. And then we had to look, there's processes back and forth, and what are the buckets underneath of that? And we've broken that down into talent acquisition, talent development, talent engagement, talent retention. And so these are the conversations that we have at the enterprise level. And understanding what they are, what's the technology that's giving us the data about them, how do we share that data across, what is the implications of skills, because we hire people in for a certain set of skills, in some cases. In some cases, we hire people in because they're cleared eligible, and we will give them the skills. We'll develop the skills. And so looking across these four things really drove us to the outputs. And as we continue to hound in on this, as we continue to put the pieces around and understand, it has really transformed many segments of our business. And Jim will talk a little bit later about some of our programs, TechX, and some of these places, because every business has their piece that's the most difficult challenge. For us, it's finding highly cleared staff because of our client needs. And we figured out what can we develop in them if we can find this person with an aptitude, and what are the systems that help us automate this, because otherwise it's just crazy to try to do that for 35,000 individuals.
If I could add one piece to this too, another keyword is career mobility, or enabling career mobility. One of the huge business problems we have, I'll give you a data point. It's probably about 3 years old. We took a look at how many employees were applying for jobs internally. If they could apply for a rec, they already have a position, they apply for a rec. So we tracked how many internal people apply for jobs internally. So we had 4,000. And then we followed them, and then we learned that 60% of them, after a year, left the firm if they did not get a job internally. Holy cow. That's a big number, and an expensive number. We have a problem. And it is cultural, big part of it. And the other part is we really didn't have a platform that can enable really hiring from within. So as we talk about talent acquisition, it's not just hiring from the outside, now it's hiring from within. How do we develop people to have skills that are highly marketable? How do we continually engage to drive retention? And you'll see also part of this is we created a talent marketplace, which allows that to occur. And I've had conversations with several people in this room learning about their best practices. And there's some that are here, and really help shape our thinking to get us where we are on that particular journey.
So thinking about an integrated ecosystem. This is our learning ecosystem map. I love it. I actually have a copy printed out. I keep it on my desk because it's important for me to understand where we are, understand and be able to.
It's a fairly new financial accounting, but I did it as a great credential for those aspiring to become data analysts. In fact, they're encouraging many of our team members in the program. So you think about those building analysts.
with strategic partners, we came ready with our documents with questions that we wanted to ask those individuals about those specific areas. So we included that in our conversations. This is where that relationship building becomes deeper and deeper. This is where we're establishing credibility of who we are and the services that we can offer and use to support those individuals. On the right-hand side, we have a questionnaire. So when we were not meeting with them, we sent out surveys or questionnaires. We use Microsoft Form. You can use SurveyMonkey and whatever other survey tools that you have. But this provided us an anonymous way to understand and identify those learning needs, to really better understand those individuals. And this is going to be crucial when we get to that part. So we ask those questions and use the combination of those communication modes. So again, calling back to our communication plan.
Something that will sort out everything, but it will massively improve the experience. So first, I already spoke about it. We need to forget about time management and teach ourselves and our students to manage their attention in the digital age. Because when there are so many things bombarding their attention, they cannot learn unless they have an understanding of what's going on. So you need to teach them actually about all these distractions. There you go, exactly. That's exactly. You can take this, make it real life, feel the experience, and have some rules. Rules can be, as a playful one, no phones, or phones at a particular hour, or try to resist the urge. By the way, did anyone have more than 10 times the urge of checking their device? More than 10 times? 1, 2, 3. More than 15 times? Did anyone have no urge at all? Wow. Wow. That is try to teach your students what is going to be taking a course single tasking, as much as possible. It also means that the phone needs to be removed and put somewhere where they can't see it. Same when you learn. Again, it can be very short. It can be 15 minutes. It can be 20 minutes. voting, yeah, I ask you to do that because otherwise it's a lot of attention switching. Yeah, and I know I would have lost you on the second minute.
여기서 런치하고.
What do you mean? I think it's a battle worth fighting. Because you're right. You do. I mean, I think a lot of people think it's like, oh, yeah.
Hopefully there's one person. And then there's me. Rubies and me.
glad you're here for the walk-in set. We are your house band. We're going to be playing some 80s music to celebrate 80 years this year. Isn't that amazing? So happy to be here. I got my first real 6-string, bought it in the 5 and I played it till my fingers bled. Was the summer of '69. Me and some guys from school, we had a band and we tried real hard. Jimmy quit, Judy got married. Should've known we never get far. Ooh, and I look back now. The summer seemed to last away. Let's start the show.
ATD would like to thank today's keynote session sponsor, Masterclass at Work.
With over 150 instructors and thousands of lessons, get them ready to think critical or solve a problem a day. Be willing to take risks. Okay, not that risky, but maybe they'll be inspired to step in and be the leader.
Find ways to work together. Get out there and make something happen.
Negotiate like a professional. Act more courageously. With Masterclass at Work, give your employees a seat across heads of state, business leaders, best-selling authors, entrepreneurs, and icons who are changing the world.
Are we ready?
Masterclass at Work.
Welcome to San Diego, California, and ATD 23, where together we will create a world that works better. And together we are celebrating ATD's 80th anniversary.
Here's to 80 years of creating a world that works better. 美好未来，你我共创 ATD 80周年快乐。
Here's to 80 years of creating a world that works better.
80 عاماً هنا لخلق عالم يعمل بشكل أفضل. Here's to 80 years of creating a world that works better.
Thank you for your commitment and dedication to developing the knowledge and skills of others. Here's to the next 80 years of helping create a world that works better.
Please welcome ATD President and CEO, Tony Bingham.
I'm on top of the world. I'm on top of the world. It's a while now, and my knees are nerve. I've been waiting to smile. Hey, been holding it in for a while. Hey, till you do with me if I can. Been dreaming of this as a child. I'm on top of the world. Woo!
So what do you think? You like the band? Good morning and welcome to ATD 23 here in beautiful San Diego. Yeah, how about it? It's great to be in San Diego, isn't it? It's fantastic to see so many of you here in person. On behalf of our awesome ATD board and our exceptional staff, thank you for attending this year's ATD International Conference and Exposition. I hope you feel as excited as we do to welcome our community together as we celebrate ATD's 80th anniversary. How about it? Yeah, it's really. Thank you for sharing your positive energy with others today. And a special welcome to our virtual guests joining us from all over the globe. Yep. Thank you for participating in this conference and being a vital part of our worldwide community. Please join me in thanking several of our most important partners, the ATD 23 exhibitors, sponsors, and speakers. Without them, we would not be able to hold this conference. While you're here, we hope that you'll visit the Expo, the largest gathering of talent development suppliers in the world. This is really your chance to see how our supplier community is investing in the future of the field. We also encourage you to take advantage of the education sessions to learn, collaborate, and network. And of course, I'd like to recognize the ATD team for the tremendous effort they put in to make this event happen. I think you'll find the conversation today with Adam Grant to be an especially powerful one for the times we're in. He'll share the importance of changing our mindsets to think again, how to build great learning cultures, the importance of humility and leadership, and more. And this year, we're doing something different. In addition to the band, we've invited someone who will be our content connector for the next few days, helping us summarize what we've learned from keynote speakers in the education sessions and on the expo floor. She will help us tie together great learning today from Adam, Priya tomorrow, and Leslie on Wednesday. She's an award-winning keynote speaker, author, and leadership expert. Her first book, The Leading Edge, yes, helps people harness their leadership potential by asking better questions, thinking beyond biased answers, and building collective momentum for change. Please join me in a warm ATD welcome for Holly Ransom. Welcome to ATD, Holly.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here and in this wonderful Master of Ceremonies role.
Thanks for being here. So I mentioned that we're going to be doing something a little different this year. You want to share a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, well, I think you've touched on it. I've got this wonderful role of being able to weave together these phenomenal speakers that are going to sit on stage, connecting some of the key ideas and things that we want to pull through, interacting with our fabulous house band, wait till you see what we have in store there, and just getting to connect and immerse myself in this experience with you and bring as much of it onto the stage too. Because I think one of the great things about programs like this is there's a healthy amount of FOMO. There's so much going on, but there's a little bit of having a trade-off, right? And so I'm going to do my best to try and summarize and encapsulate all the things you couldn't quite get to because you couldn't clone yourself 10 different ways.
Excellent. And you have expertise in large conferences like this. What advice do you have for our audience to get the most out of their ATD 23 experience?
Oh, it's a great question. And I think one of the things I would say that the best thing is to just make sure you're really clear on what you want to get out of ATD 23. So that idea of having a view of what's the most important thing that you want to do every day, whether it's listening to a particular session, going and making sure you're spending time on the expo floor, connecting with these wonderful like minds you've got here in the room with you. But I'd challenge you and invite you to challenge yourselves too. One of the ways I love to approach programs like this is go to one thing you're absolutely passionate about, you're a subject matter expert in, you can talk underwater about. Go to something as a second that you're interested in, you don't understand, you're curious about it. And as a third, go to something you would never normally pick to do. Take yourself off the beaten track and expose yourself to those unlike-minded ideas or those different experiences. So they would be my three.
Excellent.
Can I ask you a question?
No.
Happy 80th birthday. It's very exciting, ATD. Congratulations. What would be your 80th birthday wish for everyone here?
Interesting. First off, thanks for being here. You know, the event, you know, the ATD team just works so hard to create and make the event super special. And so my wish would be that you really take advantage and immerse yourself in the event. I know we all have work back at home going on, and we have a tendency to try to get pulled into that. But try to stay away as much as possible. Immerse yourself in the event. How often can you get together with all these like-minded individuals from literally around the world and learn from them and also share your knowledge with them? So that's my wish.
I love it. Well, Tony, thank you so much.
Thank you, and I'll turn it over to you. Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Tony. Well, I am so excited to be here, but more importantly, are you excited to be here? I want to hear it like we're 9,000 caffeinated people ready for Adam Grant on stage in a couple of minutes. Are we excited? Now, I want to quickly unleash some of that energy and take up that invitation Tony gave us there to connect and have conversation. And we're going to try a little bit of an exercise at scale. So it's a little bit of a trust exercise with 9,000 of you here in the room today. What I want to do is invite you, just 45 seconds each, to turn to someone nearby you, who you don't know ideally, and share just quickly, 45 seconds each, why you joined this industry. Why did you get into talent development? Why are you passionate about it? And then at 90 seconds, I'm going to clap. Might need to invoke a band, making a louder noise than that. We'll see how we go. And then we're going to bring it back to me at the 90-second mark. I think we can do that. Do you think we can do that? All right. Ready? Set, kick off conversations, let's go.
Then what do you do for a living?
I'm a training
Training major? Did you come here alone? Team?
development professionals and talk to you about the power of purpose. But one thing I do want to invite you to think about over the course of the couple of days we're going to spend here together is how you get the opportunity, alongside learning about all these wonderful things that can enrich your organization's work, that can help support you in your technical capacity, is to use this as time and space to recharge your own batteries, to connect in that deeper level, to give your why some juice and some fuel, and to ramp that up a little bit. There is nothing better than the opportunity to be around like minds like this and to remind ourselves of why we love what we do. So I hope you'll take that up as an opportunity over the next couple of days and connect with one another in that beautiful way that you can when you start from a place of purpose. Now, speaking of everything else that's going on, let me give you a little bit of a taste of what we have in store over the next couple of days. We've got the ATD23 Expo that's going to open immediately after we finish in here this morning. It's on Hall B, level 1. It is packed with more than 350 exhibitors, which is the most since pre-COVID. We are back to that level. Can we give a round of applause for that? So good. This is fantastic to be back in person and be able to do things at scale like this again. Now, besides the incredible vendors that are on offer there with the latest and greatest in talent development solutions, lots of tools on display, you also have the opportunity to have lunch, to have dessert, so very important, your food is in that room, make sure you note that one down, right? There's also a headshot lounge. If you need a new LinkedIn picture for 2023, then that is your solution there. There are puppies. I'm just going to say that one more time, there are puppies.
Somebody asks me what I do, and I say psychologist, I feel like they're about to ask to change seats. So I've had to change that and say organizational psychologist. And then the usual reaction is, what's that? Like, no, I cannot cure your OCD. I do not know how to Marie Kondo your life. What I do is I try to study how to make work not suck. And for a lot of my career, I've been the guy who got called after 3 consultants got fired. And at that point, I could not do a lot of harm, but it was a great opportunity to figure out what is causing people and organizations to struggle, and how can I help them improve. One of my first projects was in a bookstore that a lot of you might remember. It was called Borders. Yeah, I watched them go out of business. Woo! I still feel guilty about that. Then I saw similar things happen to the BlackBerry, Blockbuster, Kodak, Polaroid, Sears, Toys R Us. And the story at the time was that digital disruption was the fundamental problem. But I saw something deeper at play. I saw a lot of leaders who were good at thinking, but too slow when it came to rethinking. They fell in love with the way they'd always done it, and they did not question their assumptions until it was too late. Now, I'm not proud of this, but I watched that happen. And I thought, this is kind of stupid. Right? Your whole job as a leader is to watch the world change and then adapt to the changes around you. And they were failing to do that. Then I was teaching my first class at work, and a student came in one day and said, I have a startup idea, and I wonder if you might be willing to invest in it. And I listened to the pitch, and I said, this is a ridiculous idea. You can't sell glasses over the internet. You have to get your eyes tested. You have to then try them on. This is never going to work. I passed on the investment. Now Warby Parker is worth over $1 billion. And my wife is in charge of all our investment decisions. I made the same mistake that I watched all of these leaders making, right? I made an assumption that was once true, but was now false. And I did not rethink it. I didn't just make an assumption about how the internet and business worked. I also made an assumption about myself. I'm a teacher, I'm a social scientist. I am not an investor. I had to rethink and unlearn those assumptions. Now, we live in a rapidly changing world. Between the COVID pandemic and AI, right? Change is moving faster than it ever has before. So I think we need to be quicker to rethink and unlearn all of our assumptions if we want to keep up in this world. So I want to talk this morning about how we can get better and faster at rethinking. Are you ready? All right, I was actually going to do it anyway, but I appreciate the enthusiasm. So for me, the beginning of rethinking is your network. The people that you surround yourselves with as learning, talent, and training and development professionals. You all know the value of a support network. You have people who have mentored you, sponsored you, had your back. But rethinking hinges on a different kind of network. What I have come to call a challenge network. Your challenge network is the group of thoughtful critics who you trust to hold up a mirror so you can see your own blind spots more clearly. They are the people who, instead of lining up to feed you comforting lies, actually have the courage to tell you the unpleasant truth. Where do you find these people? I have to tell you, I don't see enough of them in workplaces. More often, I see the leader walk in and say, "Good morning," and a bunch of people are like, "Great point." That is a scary world to live in. That stifles your learning and development. So how do you find people who will play that challenge network role in your work life? There's a dynamic I've been studying my whole career that's relevant. You have to ask, what are their motives behind their willingness to challenge you? The question is, are the people in your network every day more likely to be givers or takers? You may know the givers as people who are constantly asking, what can I do for you? The takers are the opposite. They want to know, well, what can you do for me? It will not surprise you that we are better off surrounded by givers than takers. But we often have a hard time identifying them. And sometimes we don't even know which one we are. So I wanted to give you all a chance to assess yourselves. Where do you stand on the spectrum from giving to taking at work? I prepared a short psychometric test. You can take it now. I'm willing to tell you what you need to rethink. We know in hospitals, for example, when people lack psychological safety, they hide their mistakes. And then everyone is more likely to repeat them. When they have psychological safety, they can freely admit their errors, study what caused them, and then rethink routines to prevent them. We know in tech companies, when people have psychological safety, they let their ideas fly. When they lack it, they bite their tongues. So given the importance of psychological safety for rethinking, how do you build it? I have to tell you, I watch a lot of leaders screw this up and destroy psychological safety. And recently I decided a picture is truly worth 1,000 words. So I started taking photos of leaders who are killing psychological safety. And I want to just show you, here's my favorite one that I shot. Any resemblance between me and Dr. E? Purely coincidental? All joking aside.
Which the professor was let go after the semester.
The number of stories you tell give Aesop fables in one first night. Yes, can be more.
You're so nervous, you're causing us to physically shake in our seats.
Prof think it's an axe all down with pop culture, but secretly thinks Ariana Grande is a bond.
Celebrate to finally have a professor from Australia. You started strong, but then got softer. You need tenure, so toughen up with these brats. I'm from Alabama.
I show this video every October. And afterward, the floodgates open. I hear problems and concerns, but also great ideas and suggestions that I had not gotten before. And I think what I'm doing is I'm saying, look, I take my work seriously. I don't take myself that seriously. Whatever you see, I want to hear it. There's only one thing they never told me. I got one piece of feedback that said I reminded them of a Muppet. And no one would disclose which Muppet, which is very disappointing. You should rethink in order to find better practices. And what is a new experiment that we ought to run? The faster you are to recognize that you were wrong, the faster you can move towards getting it right, which I think is the goal. Thank you.
Alabama accent and Australian accent, but there you go. Everything's possible. Adam, firstly, thank you for being here. And I wanted to kind of start where you finished, if we can, which is you were talking about the importance of us thinking like scientists. And I'm interested, you made that point, we need to encourage people in our organisations to do more of this. What are some strategies for people thinking about taking that idea back to their organisation, for how to actually begin the work of cultivating that?
I think the easiest starting point is to say language really matters.
Yep.
So a lot of people are threatened by change. You all know this. You've lived it. Right? It's much easier to say, hey, what do you think about piloting this idea? What do you think about running a small experiment? Here's the budget. Here's the time frame that it would take. People are excited about pilots and experiments, right? They think about that as a chance for innovation. They think of it as an opportunity for creativity and discovery. So I would start there. And then I guess the other thing I would do is I think the language of hypotheses is really helpful for people. Whenever somebody is really attached to a conviction, I like to ask them, what's your alternative hypothesis? And they're like, huh, I never really thought about that. All right, tell me more. I'm curious, where does that line of thinking take you?
I like that. Now, you talked about one of the most important...
A lot on the project and what your goals are. I would say the more important the project, the more people you need in the challenge network, right? So if you're just making a small decision, 1 or 2 people might be enough. When you take on a huge project, like when I write a book, I usually have a dozen people in the challenge network. The most important thing you can do with them is make sure their feedback is independent, because you don't want them to conform to each other. And what you find is if you ask 5 people for reactions, maybe one of them is going to be idiosyncratic on something, and you realize, oh, that's just their taste, I don't have to follow it. But if 4 of them have the same complaint separately, you realize, no, that's a quality control issue, and I've got to address it. Holly, you know this because you mentioned it in the intro, but I have found it enormously helpful to ask people for a 0 to 10 score.
And you have a very specific reason for asking the question that way, don't you, too?
Well,
in terms of making sure people can give you meaningful feedback.
I mean, I apparently do. Tell me, what is it?
Well, I remember you saying previously that if you just ask people generally for feedback, you'll kind of get a general answer, or people just say, oh, that was great, or something like that. So the specificity of asking, where would I get out of 10 and what could I do to move closer actually allowed you to get more meaningful, actionable insight.
I think so. I like the way you articulated it, actually. I think that, I've gotten a lot of platitudes when I just say, how did that go, or what can I do better, or what feedback do you have? The 0 to 10 gives people a range where they can still be encouraging, but also honest, right? So I feel like no matter how something goes, a lot of the responses are in the 7 to 8 range. And I usually say, really? I give myself a 5.5 on that, right? Or I think you're actually being too generous. Here are my initial notes. And then it gives me the opportunity really quickly to make it clear that I don't care what their score is. I care about how to improve the score from wherever they are. But the score is useful for calibration, right? If somebody is genuinely in the 7 to 8 range, I'm going to be tweaking and refining. When I get a 3.5, I'm like, okay, I need to go back to the drawing board.
You are typically, I've noticed, quite a harsh self-critic, so you're very tough on yourself when it comes to scoring.
How else do you learn?
Exactly. And I love that genuine openness and the discipline. I think that's one of the things I admire for all of your body of work, that you still, every time you show up, are eager to think about how do I improve. I really admire that about how you work.
Well, I appreciate that. The status quo is extremely boring. So, I can't imagine operating any other way. But also, you're the first person, when I ask for feedback, to give honest feedback, frankly. So I appreciate that as well. And that means I ask you for more feedback because it's been so valuable. Holly, that's like choosing a favorite child.
I know.
You should always say the middle child, by the way, because they always get exact same. If I were going to say one thing, I would say the best thing you can do is you all know the importance of thinking and learning time in your calendar. Ideally, you have an hour a day, but I know a lot of our lives are too busy. You're carving out maybe
Adam Grant 2 options in our thinking and decision making to 3, that challenge to ourselves of can I get a 10 out of 10 for how I take the feedback, being able to in those moments where we're doubting ourselves to go, what are you waiting for? And actually invite yourself, am I going to do this? Well then what are you waiting for? An empowering way to reframe something for you in moments of challenge. That invitation to encourage, that invitation to invite more disagreeable givers into our network. Have we got Roy Kent? Thank you so much, everybody.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
Have a good one.
For access to this, please proceed to the project manager. This concludes our opening session. Have a great rest of your day.
Three-year online review team. That's how we got started. And I felt like I was people with really bad and Mark and Amanda.
다행이다. 여기 1층이네. 나가서 담배나 좀 나가시죠. 저게 엑스포인 거잖아요.
2층에서 한번 쫙 찍으면 또 잘 나올 것 같은데.
그러네.
저게 뭐가 이렇게 화려할 때가 아니지?
그쵸. 코엑스보다 그쵸. 그 한 2019년 영상만 못 와도 화려한데. 여기 뭐 위에 아무것도 없어요.
여기 뭐 하는 거야? 여기 아니네. 아니야. 여기 엑스포 아니죠? 여기 이따가 밥 먹는 거 같아.
우리 국기에 있다.
at least 80% of the time.
엑스포다. 엑스포. 앞에 있어. Thank you. 슈네 바로 저기 있네.
More likely to get an exceptional rating on their next performance review. They're 2.5 times more likely to be promoted, and my favorite, 30% more likely to stick around. Listen.
저거 슈네 거였어요, 저거?
그치?
네. 와, 마이 갓.
I want to go find director, Brad. Tara? Brad. Over. 방 났어요.
우리 거?
연인 장르. 사진을 찍어달라고 할 거야? 아, 그럼요. 소셜 러닝. 이게 랩스가 러닝전이네. 잘 만들었다. 비슷하네. 종합 역량도 종합 기술. 이거 두 개 맞춰서 만든 거예요? 네? 여기에 맞춰서 만든 거예요.
그러고 있을 거예요. 저희 거 못 보셨는데.
여기 K 에듀야.
아, 거기 계세요. 조영 선배님 가신다고. 아, 그래요? 아, 거기서 하시는구나. 저희는 저기 일하고 있었거든요.
시장 맞췄나봐요. 31일 수능 시작하고 그 다음날 그렇게 지금 근데 준비되는 대로 입고 왔더라고요. 이걸 물어볼 사람은 없으니까 잘 됐다. 처음부터 그냥 트는 거야. 네, 찍는 거야. 네. 그래도 좋죠.
너무 귀여워서 안 나오는 거 같아.
아니, 시작되면 앞으로
이쪽 앞으로.
아는 사람 있으면 다 데리고 와야겠다 이제. 원장님만 지나가겠고. 사운드가 없구나.
네.
사운드.
저 사운드 BGM
나오긴
해요.
조금씩 나오긴 해 소리는. 어차피 그거 할 때 사운드 안 들어갈 거잖아.
네.
영상을 만들거나.
어차피 BGM밖에 없잖아요 저희. 빰빰빰빰빰빰.
아니 우리 영상이 지금 보이는 거예요.
어제 만났을 잠깐만.
변솔 팀장이 많이.
네 어제 저희랑 같은 세션 들었어요. 저희 세션.
나는 올 때만 틀어달라고 했는데 그냥 정규 방송이네. 어차피 한 10분 기다리면 한 번 나오겠다.
아니 더 되는 것 같아요.
이게 뭐가 많다.
네, 맞네요.
근데 여기는 다른 데는 다 시연을 할 수 있는 부스잖아.
네.
여기는 시연 부스가 아니야. 광고 부스야. 그래서 우리가 거기다가 러닝 전이에 대한 얘기를 썼더니 딱 여기다가 나와있어요.
이거 반복인데?
이거 다음이 나이.
아, 이거 다음에.
아, K-팝은 많이 들어가 있구나.
이게 중간에 무조건 한 번씩 들어가 있네.
쉬는 시간 같은 개념이구나.
교수님 성함이 어떻게 되지? 네? 설명돼? 이현우 교수님? 이현우? 네. 맞나? 찍었는데? 아니요.
나오시네.
맞아, 이현우 교수님.
나오나? 나옵니다, 사장님.
제가 찍어드릴게요.
아, 궁금합니다. 조금씩 움직여. 정우 형 좀만 앞으로 가.
대인이 좀 앞으로.
동영상으로 찍어주실 분 아니죠?
열심히 찍고 있어요.
사진 찍어주세요.
네.
수가 왜 이렇게 별로 없지?
Yeah, so that's right. Is your internet down? Is it?
Digital learning for the entire world. 네. 아, 소니파. 후원해주는 곳이다.
Well, so like we had the admin log. Oh yeah,
Yeah, because we only need two.
I just had somebody in my mind. He said,
코엑스만도 못하고.
Not this year, but last year.
갤럽이다.
Let's go to the one. Especially that. I think you have to.
Nixon's resignation, Kennedy's funeral, or O.J. Simpson's car chase. Just look at the date, you'll get this one right. 6 players in, 6 players out at the moon landing. Houston, we do not have a problem now. Nice work, we've got one more clue to go here, folks. Here's your final clue. The most viewed broadcast of a television show was the series finale of this Korean War drama in 1983. Yes, Jason got it right the quickest. Nice work, Jason. Vanessa got it right, James got it right. Nice work. All players are in. One person got it wrong. Nash is the top response. A great show. There's a bunch of information about Nash. Who cares? Let's get back to the leaderboard. Show people where you are.
아, 찍었다. 프로셜럿.
얘기하지 않았지만 있다 오면 온다 동영상을 봐야 그게 없으면 우리가 뭘 하고 아닌지 뭘 했다는 거고 나의 사진 어쩌고 피팅하고 할 거는 어쩌니까 내가 그 부장이라고 계속 찍은 그 사진들 공유하고 있어. 아직 부장님한테요? 오늘 아침에 출근 시간에 딱 맞춰야 보내놓고 아무 연락 없으면 가서 죽는다 했잖아. 너희들은 뭐 연락도 한번 잘 지내는지 근데 또 외국상이 안 좋아요? 이게 또 박근혜 팀장이라도 가끔 해라 하면서 오늘 또 이제 단톡방에 있으니까 그걸 또 부장님하고 팀장 분들이랑 단톡방 만들어가지고 인사하고 그런 것도 아닌 것 같고 계속 뭐 할 거거든요. 항상 동영상에 나와야 된다. 그래서 그 이후에도 작년에 갔다 온 것 같지만 전에 2015년에 갔다 온 것 같지만 특별한 거 없어요. 오늘 지금 영상에 담아냈어요.
아마 하루가 퉁쳤을 거예요.
아니요. 옷이 하나밖에 없었어.
너무 급하게 딱 같은 티가 나긴 해요.
그래서 본인들이 등장하지 않아 보여요. 그래서 이따가 오면은 엑스포 가서 우리가 이제 본인 척하는 거
또 이렇게 하고 뭐 이렇게도 하고
대놓고 어디 정해서 한 개는 가서 몰라도 그냥 다가서 한번 뭐 만져보고 생각하는 거를 몰래 찍으라고 하는 거예요.
얘기하면
외국인이 이제 막 설명해주고 땡땡
VR도 체험해보고
옷을 갈아입고 올까요? 우리 여러 가지 옷이 나와야 며칠 연속 온 것처럼.
어저께 좀 있잖아.
어저께?
같이
어제?
같이
어제 그냥 막 같이 찍고 했던 거요?
세션장 그다음에
어제 뭐였지?
언제요?
사진 찍은 건 기억이
각자
나요.
세션 들어갔다가
맞다,
나와서
맞다.
바로 그냥
앉아서 이렇게 이렇게 찍었어요. 이렇게 영상 이렇게 하는 거 듣는 거 세션.
그래서 일단은 여전히 나는 2019년도 버전처럼 하는 게 나은데 거기엔 내용이 없어. 최소한 그런 거 온거 없잖아. 그러니까 그런 식으로 하면서 여기서 했고 몇 명이 참여했고 막 그런 것도 보여주고서 그 다음에 그 컨퍼런스의 그 제너럴 세션에서 그런 거 있잖아. 그거는 음성이 들어가야 된다고.
음성이 들어가야 돼.
밴드 막 신나는 그런 그것도 뭐 회장이나 처음에 나와서 얘기하는 거랑 나와서 막 하고 막 얘기하고 딱 그런 모습이 순간순간 그리고 다 찍었더라?
그렇죠. 그렇습니다.
뒤에서 이렇게 거시는 거 어떻게 할까?
최대한 제 대가리 위에서 이렇게 했어요.
그런 거 위주로 하고 그다음에 세션 어제 들어왔을 때 지갑들 뭐 그런 것도 있잖아요. 오늘도 오늘 그냥 뭐 세션 몇 개 이제 따라 들어가면서 이렇게 좀 시작하면 나오고
한 10분씩만 따서 한 5개 세션 돌면 될 것 같아요.
다양한 걸 하는 것처럼. 그렇죠. 근데 세션 샷이 제너럴 세션 그 아저씨가 나올 때는 그 제너럴 빵빵빵 나와주는 거 같다. 그다음에 우리는 프레스룸 세션 들어가서 트랙이 우리가 어떻게 진행하는 게 진짜 트랙을 착착착착 보여주면서 몇백 분의 세션이 있었다. 그다음에 이제 스피드. 그다음에 엑스포로 나와서 들어가는 이펙트를 통해서 뭐한 전경에서 화려해 보이게 푸적푸적 화려해 보이고 또 그 안에서 추에서 찾아가는 누구도 거기서 제일 가까웠어. 아까운 게 상당히 좋은 거 상당히 예쁘게 됐는데 예쁘게 틀어주고 있구나. 그 다음에 우리가 가고 조금 다른 데 가고 뻘짝거리고
두 번 못 먹겠죠? 이거 찍었으니.
그러려고 찍었겠지?
진짜
우리 이렇게 세션을 듣고 점심까지 먹었다.
정말 타임아웃.
분명히 돌아가면 안 듣고 놀러 갔지라고 얘기할 거예요.
저희 보고 영상 만들어야겠어.
와 먹었다. 사진 찍고 있잖아.
다 비싸구나.
근데 영상으로 저게 남기면 더 크리트가 있겠다.
네, 맞아요. 의미 있을 것 같아요.
높은 분들 보여주기 편해요. 그냥 보고서 이런 것보다 그냥
백날 말해봤자.
백날 말해봤자 영상 하나 편집해서 보여드리는 건데.
근데 사람 집중하는 것도 훨씬 더 나은.
약간 약밥 같지 않아?
맛이 그죠. 근데 간은 좀 약한?
이런 데서 또
약하네.
이상한 데서 간을
맛이
세게
아니라서.
하고.
아시안보다 이렇게 많네.
무리할 텐데. 이게 입맛에 맞을 수도 있어. 좀.
저도 미국에서 5일 있어야 돼.
우리 아직 그렇게 남았어요?
금요일 귀국이니까. 목요일 귀국이니까. 금요일 귀국. 계속?
목요일 귀국이에요.
월, 화, 수. 그럼 3일 남았어.
미국 문에 적응한 것 같아, 조금씩.
이제 원래 이제 적응할 때쯤에 가잖아요.
이 양이 적은 게 아니었어.
네, 맞아요. 많아요.
재밌어.
Interesting.
And so the movie centers around, it's based on a true story. It centers around a Thai soccer team. Young folks who range in ages, I believe it was like 9 to 12, something like that. And in Thailand, they finished one day of a soccer practice, and they did their ritual of going to this particular cave. And it just so happened this particular day that they went to the cave where they would go, there was a severe rainstorm. And with the rain, they ended up getting flooded and they were stuck in the cave. So they had to call in teams to try and get them out of the cave. And so I could go on into and down another road with adaptability and DEI in that respect. But what really struck me is beyond just the movie and what happened in real life with that particular story, I happened, shortly after seeing the movie, I happened to view a masterclass by Ron Howard. And one key thing he shared in talking about the experience in directing and what it can do for you in his masterclass, he touched on one thing that really struck me when he said, when I was doing this movie and I brought in some kids from Thailand to really do the role, I needed them to also give me feedback or fear. This, we'll go with your right, your left instead of mine, okay? So can you raise your right hand? All right. If you feel this is the fact, when I display the statement, not yet, when I display the statement, if you feel it's fact, you're gonna gravitate to the right side of the room. If you are comfortable enough, if you have any issues walking or anything like that, feel free to just raise your right hand and we'll know that is your vote. If you feel it is a fib when I display it, you are going to gravitate to the left side of the room. Let's raise our left hands. All right, we got it? Fact is what side? Fib is what side? All right, we're good? All right. Here's the statement. We have a multi-generational workforce with 4 generations in today's workforce. Fact or fib? And I don't remember saying any undecided, so we'll give you all a few seconds who are in the middle. Fact, fib. All right. Right down here, are you all fact or fib? I'm trying to determine. Fact, not. All right, are we ready to see the answer? We're ready? All right. The answer is, can we just get a drum roll? I love the drum roll. Here we go. Fib, you all. Sorry. We won't call you all the weakest links. We appreciate you being here. There are actually 5 generations. 5.
I'll just say it.
That's fair.
It's a little tricky. 5 generations. Oh, you all can you can return. You all stayed there like, no, it's still a fact. I fight it. So the generations are traditionalist, baby boomer, Gen X, millennial, and Generation Z. Millennial is also the same as what?
Y.
The Y generation, Generation Y. Helpful for us to know because
what did you think and feel, and what did you think other people were thinking and feeling? And then they interview those folks, and there's a huge disconnect. It's just proven again and again. So 2 things I want to call out is one is if you work with a global organization, this difference in how you do power between collectivist societies and individuals will start to create problems on the executive team. Okay? And in addition, it primes people for behaviors like harassment, both racial and sexual. In fact, Dr. Atdcon퍼런스
he's done a lot of research on this. And he says people in leadership often pick up phantom sexual signals from subordinates that aren't really there. So they'll leave a meeting thinking, oh, she's flirting with me. Oh, he's into me. And then they'll take action on that because they think that person's on the same page. I heard a whoa. Yeah, whoa, okay? So we can start to see again how some of these behaviors start to get exacerbated. And then the third terrible thing that power does to our brain, if those two aren't enough, is feelings of invincibility or hubris. And Dr. Galinsky goes on to say, power makes people feel both psychologically invincible and psychologically invisible, meaning I can do what I want and nobody can really see it. Like they just really think they're protected. The hubris syndrome is something, I want you guys to get this article. It's titled, it's in Brain Magazine. How are you feeling? So let's have you pop over to Minty and we'll get a little bit of feedback from both the virtual audience and our in-the-room audience here. Oh, I guess I had to open it up, sorry about that. Okay, here we go. You can start voting now. Sorry, I hadn't moved it over. So you've got view from the top, exacerbated privilege. You can vote for more than one, so you can identify whichever ones you think are relevant. Decreased empathy projects views on others, feelings of invincibility, or other. Some of you are just going down the list and checking them all. I can see that. I'll give this one a whole minute because I know we've got folks joining us virtually. Thank you for those of you joining us virtually. We miss you here in person, but I hope you're wearing your comfy pajamas and having a nice cup of tea wherever you are.
It's just something like that.
아니 의외로 앞뒤 동영상하고 잘 맞아요.
그죠?
쓰도 안 나고.
그러니까 국민은행에서 훨씬 더 도와주셔야죠.
왜 이렇게 피곤해 보이세요 오늘?
네?
왜 이렇게...
너무 피곤해요. 음식도 안 맞고 너무 힘들어요.
언제 올라오셨어요?
저희는 아니 토요일 날.
여기 앞에 거기 계신다면서요?
하드락. 네.
호텔에 있다면서. 바로 그 옆에 있어요.
그래도 호텔 바로 앞에 있던데요?
지금 밥 먹고 점심 먹고 갔다.
오늘 그냥 영어만.
맞아요. 이걸로 outside
also have a quiz. Just say, yeah, he's the AI professor. And your company?
Everybody from high school knows what high school calls a Debbie, and no one else is allowed to use a Debbie in high school.
Power me. If we stay.
Oh,
Like,
right.
yeah. But because we've got our organizations that go. Europe as well.
You guys having fun so far?
좀 더 이쪽 앞쪽에서 얼굴 나오게 좀 더 앞에. 오케이.
Hi, can we help you? No, but can we help you do a demo? This is not for anybody who just demo.
Can you explain about your LMS?
I can't, but I can get somebody who can. If you'd like to just register there, they'll have somebody. Yeah, I would invite you to see
Thank you so much.
우리 다 그냥 동영상 이게 하나의 과정. 동영상
There we go. I have somebody who can help you actually.
Alright. How's it going?
Good.
I'm not scanning.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I already worked with your colleagues. Yes. Let me scan you. You have a colleague that was here earlier. Two of them. They were looking at the content. Yeah, of course. Yeah, so the LMS is really a way for learners to have an experience when they log in that they'll see exactly what training is required. They'll see training that's recommended to them based off their personal preferences and AI-generated logic. And you can see here that this is what we call learner homepage. So the learner is immersed into the system with understanding and everything relating to content. They can identify their own subjects that they're interested in, their own learning goals, and those goals and those content items will show up right in here. And this page can be very much personalized, so required learning, optional learning, recommendations, etc. What's that? Oh yeah, we support video content, e-learning content, as well as live training.
Oh, can I see this?
Yeah. There's some video content. You can play full screen. You can have closed captioning. You can control the speed of the video to full screen video. There's actually a video from another client of ours. So you can see it's a full screen. So any video that you upload into the system is going to display in a full screen. You can also have multiple videos in a particular curriculum, right? So if you do that, then you're going to have content that's listed one after the next with the launch button like this.
But they can build these reports like, I love this one here. It shows them everything that's past due, work in progress. So, and do you all
In your system, is there a post that learners can comment about their learner?
Exactly. So you mean after they take training, they can comment on it? So let me go ahead and show that. So if I were to search for training, you notice that you can sort according to ratings. So I might only want to search for content that's very well rated, 5 stars, and you can see comments that were left by the user right here.
Oh,
video.
good.
Yeah. This one might have more.
And I am curious about what is the strength of your LMS system, you think?
Yeah, so there's a number of strengths. One of them is the fact that it's a very intuitive platform. So as you come in as a learner, you don't really need any training to know how to use the platform, to navigate, to go through. You can also have very robust recording capabilities. And you can see here that when you search for content, if I were to search for content like new manager content, you're going to search for all content and it's going to show you the results. Title, description, how long it is. I can go into the content and it gives me information about the metadata of that course. So a lot of great information and insights that might be important for determining if you want to use that piece of content.
Cool.
It'll look at courses that you've completed previously, and it'll recommend similar courses. You can also have it look at your job and other people that hold your job and what they're taking, so trending for your position. You can also have it recommend content based off subjects that you're following. So you've told the system, I'm interested in leadership development. It's going to recommend courses that are tied to that. So it's also tied to skills. So as you're trying to increase your proficiency for a skill or acquire a new skill, you can have content recommended to you based off that, based on that relationship.
Thanks so much.
Of course.
Thanks.
왔다.
No, right here. You can block her, yeah. Alright. Come on up. Let's go. Alright guys, let me see.
Oh, 예.
There we go.
아, 우리도 이렇게 해서 찍어야 되네, 그냥.
Like 5 minutes?
Spin that wheel.
Spin that wheel.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. All right, it's Gwen. Good, present. Do we have a Gwen?
Oh my gosh! This is incredible.
Give us an opportunity for somebody here.
Somebody very special is
I want to hear somebody. Any excitement?
Here we go!
Right there with. Spin that wheel.
할까요 혹시? 네. 이제 영상인데 그냥 10초짜리 하면 그 커트 쓰면 될 것 같아서. 네, 나옵니다.
뉴올리언스에서 하죠? 네, 내년에 뉴올리언스에서. 저기서 이 멤버 그대로 봤으면 좋겠습니다. 좋은 말씀 감사하고, 네. 조금 연락드릴게요.
네, 알겠습니다.
감사합니다.
딱 잡는 옆으로 가면서 저기까지. 저기 올려.
Try doing the same thing this year.
I saw it.
I was
I'm like, you comment, but I didn't say.
I tried to do this.
지금은 이제 일찍 와서 저 뒷자리에 사람이 없는 건데 이제 한 20-30분 뒤에 시작할 때는 저 뒤 끝까지 사람들이 꽉 차고 심지어 이 복도에도 사람들이 서서 이 기조연설을 들었습니다.
I'm loving these beach balls going around. It feels like a concert.
speakers from more than 300 exhibitors in thank today's keynote session sponsor, VR.
Hi, I'm the AI-powered version of Gary, the CEO of VR. My team worked incredibly hard to pump out this video in about 5 seconds. Want to know how? Run Don't Walk to booth number 1123 to learn more. It's gonna blow your mind.
You get him taken care of? Yeah.
In a special awards ceremony held last night, ATD presented awards to individuals and organizations for excellence in the talent development field. We'd like to recognize the 2023 ATD Award winners. The One to Watch Award was designed to honor an individual early in their Yao Huang is presented with ATD's Dissertation Award for her dissertation, Exploring Mobile Performance Support Systems in the Workplace. This year's Talent Development Outstanding Professional Award is presented to Hadia Nuruddin. This year's ATD Certification Institute Certification Champion Award goes to the Saudi Arabia Basic Industries Corporation, an employer that has demonstrated significant value for and support of certification.
Once again, welcome the founder of the Leadership Consultancy Group Emergent and our ATD 23 host, Holly Ransom.
Virtually. How are we this morning? I feel like we can do a little bit better. If we had our virtual audience put the audio on mute, could we make it so loud in here they could just hear us if they listened out the window right now? How are we doing this morning? There we go. Wow, what a fabulous, it was just awesome watching that highlights package of how much we managed to pack into day one. Obviously we had Adam here on the main stage yesterday morning, but oh my gosh, I don't know about you, I did 10,500 steps just wandering the expo hall yesterday. There is so much in there to explore. What I'm really eager to do this morning is to give you a chance to connect with someone new here in the room, and also for us to just share some of those fabulous things that we experienced, that we learned, that we enjoyed yesterday. So, the fabulous music superstars at Song Division are going to help me out. Everyone watched the Oscars before yet? Yeah, okay, so you know exactly what it means when the Oscars music starts to play. It's a wrap it up signal, right? So the band are going to help me out. I'm going to give you 2 minutes on the clock to talk to someone you haven't met yet in your surroundings and answer the question, what was the thing you most enjoyed about day one at ATD? And towards the back end of that 2 minutes, the band are going to start to ramp that sound up. We're going to play ourselves out. So if you've ever wanted to imagine yourself giving an Oscar speech, it's a little bit of a taste of it, right? We're dream enablers here, if nothing else. So, and then we're going to have those fabulous 3 chords. So we're going to give you a demo of one of those that we're going to listen out for. Yeah, that's what it's going to sound like. We'll get louder and louder and louder. And then we'll hear 3 big chords. And that'll be back. Can we do it? Oh, come on. Can we do it? I want to hear a little bit more enthusiasm than that. You can count with me. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Have a conversation with someone here. heard something from their conversation buddy that was to do with something cool that they saw on the expo floor? Let's hear it. Nice. Who heard something about Adam Grant up on here on stage? Who heard something about the amazing people that their conversation buddy met and got to speak to yesterday? Fantastic. Well, plenty more of that to come, so I look forward to checking in with you tomorrow morning and seeing what happens on day 2. It's sort of fantastic, just the amount of learning opportunities that were on offer yesterday. I wasn't kidding when I said there's a healthy amount of FOMO built into ATD, was I? You cannot split yourself enough ways to get to everything. Whatever you chose to do, I hope you had a great day of learning and networking and connecting. And particularly for me, I think one of the things I was left ruminating on overnight was sort of that closing thought Adam left us with yesterday, which is not only how do we do learning and development, but how do we do unlearning and development, and sit in that space of being intentional about making time to rethink, unlearn, not just to continue to add new things onto our already stretched bandwidth or learning slate. So that was an interesting one. Now, I also, of course, hope you checked out the expo. There was plenty going on in ATD Central, Global Village.
Okay.
At how we can create collective meaning in our modern life, one gathering at a time. Krista Tippett, voice many of you will know, the host of Being, has called her the voice of what it means to gather in this world we inhabit at this present moment. She's a facilitator, she's a strategic advisor, she's the acclaimed author of the book, The Art of Gathering, and the host of the New York Times podcast, Together Apart. She spent more than 20 years helping leaders and communities to have complicated conversations about community, about identity, and vision at moments of transition. She's spoken on TED. Many of you probably have watched her talk. If so, you're some of the 3 million people that have viewed the conversations that she sparked. And we thought it was really important to bring Priya to join us at ATD 23 because as talent development professionals, your work directly promotes gathering. Whether we're talking about large group training, whether we're talking about small cohorts coming together to learn, to network, to converse. Her message today is going to leave us with new ways to think about how you gather, why you gather, and how important it is to consider your purpose to gather in the first place. I'm really excited for the way she's going to help us unpack these themes in the context, I guess, as well, of this conversation more broadly we're having around how do we build back better, think differently after the juncture of the pandemic and reimagine the way that we come together. So today, she's going to gather with us and create a live experience so our community can feel what it's like to embody the very principles of a transformative gathering, rather than only just talk about them here on stage. So, can we give a big ATD 23 welcome to Priya Parker.
Like many of you, I was born in Zimbabwe. My father is white American, my mother's Indian. They met at Iowa State. Any Iowans in here? Yeah. Loud, proud, and small. They met at the International Students Office, where my father had just returned as a Peace Corps volunteer from Cameroon. Any Cameroonians? Wow. You don't think you'd be getting a shout out. And my father went back and was in kind of reverse culture shock. He had spent 3 years in a completely different context, living in a village, and an advisor of his said, why don't you go to the International Students Office? structure that's set for us. This room is full of many, many, many rows. And the signals of the architecture is that you turn to the person to the left or right of you. That is the same in our digital experiences, right? The engineers who designed Zoom never imagined a global pandemic and why a choir might want to rehearse on their platform. And could never imagine that you would want to hear all 12 people speak at the same time. And so they made a decision to allocate the loudest voice, the mic to the loudest voice. Our architecture we shape our architecture, and then our architecture shapes us. The second thing I'll say is the first 5%, actually I'll say this next. So I asked you a second question. Do you remember what it was? Yes, a gathering that you felt really alive in, digital, virtual, or in person. And this time, I'm going to invite you to find someone else in the room, but take 10 seconds. You can move in and out through the room and into the aisles. Take at least 10 seconds to find your partner, and no side deals. So find a second person, a gathering, and why it was so meaningful.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Jason. What's your name? Yes. I'm working as an assistant manager in HR department, and I'm working at a Korean bank called Gummin Bank. Yes, so I came here to find out how to develop the capability of the employees. Yeah. What do you do for a living?
So I'm responsible for leadership development. I'm in a renewables company. So we do wind and solar.
Did you come here alone?
I did.
Nice. No. I came here with my team, 3 members, but they are staying at a hotel, and I came here alone.
Nice. Yeah. I'm on my own. So did you have a gathering that you remembered that was meaningful to you?
I don't know yet.
No, you don't know.
What insight did you get from here?
What do you mean? What insight?
What do you want to get insight from here?
From the conference?
Yeah.
I want to have some new ideas to bring back to work to see how we can improve our leadership development.
Leadership development.
Yes. And I love, Adam Grant yesterday and Priya Parker today. I just love what they bring and the energy, and they make me think differently. That's good. Yeah. Is this your first time in San Diego?
Yeah, it's my first time to San Diego.
Okay, and in the U.S.?
Yeah. It's my first visit to U.S.
Wow, congratulations.
So it was my good experience here.
Good, yeah. It was very nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Yeah. It was nice.
If this is your first ATD, please stand. Wow. Look around. You can sit back down. If you've been to 5 or more ATDs, please stand. 15 or more, stay standing. 20 or more, stay standing. Okay, 20 or more. You can sit back down. If you consider yourself a smoother over, a peacemaker, someone who likes to smooth things over, please stand.
Sit down.
I like to understand our field. Okay, you can sit back down. If you consider yourself more of a troublemaker, kind of a poker, a crier, the real troublemakers are like, I am not understanding, and I would just say a couple of things. So my field is conflict resolution, conflict restoration, and in my field, these are the people, smooth-overs and troublemakers, who are disproportionately likely to be part of transformative conversations. Why? Because you're not afraid to poke and prod and to bring a little heat, but you're also not in it to just burn the whole house down. I mean, sometimes you are, but... And human connection is as threatened by unhealthy peace as it is by unhealthy conflict. And most of our institutions are wrapped in unhealthy peace. And because we're so afraid of unhealthy conflict, we don't voice, and then we leave. And so one of the deepest elements as a leader and as somebody who's trying to affect change in your institutions is how you actually cultivate healthy heat. So we sit back down. So one of the ways to think about doing that is to first know your own conflict style. And if you don't know your own conflict style, I promise you your team does. Ask them. And if you're running any type of meeting, whatever, and you have some amount of authority, whatever your conflict style is, it's going to be read by the group. They're going to know it and they're going to move around it. And so one of the elements of transformative gatherings is risk. So I will end on this point, and then I'm gonna invite Holly back on the stage to join me in conversation. But when I researched the art of gathering, I went out and I just talked to a lot of different people. But I talked to people who other people credited with consistently creating transformative experiences. And one of the people I spoke to is a woman named Ida Benedito. She describes herself as a transgression consultant. We're going to invite you to come and begin to think about the core questions, why you do what you do. And in that place, we're going to invite you to take a few risks and to think very deeply, even when you're not the host, when you're the guest. How do I guest? I'll end on this story, and then Holly, are you here? Yay! Come on up. So I'll just close on this story, which is as we guessed, my stepmother well, maybe we can sit. Sure, okay, amazing. Should I close on the story or should I take over? Okay. So one of the things that we talked about backstage and that you all may have heard me kind of bring a through line through is gathering is not just about hosting. It's also about how we guest. And this work is not called the art of hosting in part because guests have a lot of power in how we shape what happens. Right? If you all stood up and walked out, left right now, that would shape this gathering. I don't encourage you to do that. But my stepmother was very excited because my father was retiring, and he was a civil servant all of his life, and it was the middle of the summer, and as I said earlier, he's from Iowa, which means that he didn't want to make a fuss over his retirement. He thought he would just, quietly slip out. And one of his colleagues got wind that he was retiring, and it was in the middle of the summer, July, it's a few years ago, and he said, Ron's retiring, we have to throw him a retirement, something, a lunch, something. So invitations went out, and Renee got wind of this, and she said, can I come? And he was like, I guess so. And she showed up at this lunch, so 10 colleagues came. It was at a Greek restaurant across the street. And she went, as she told it to me later, and she was so excited, and there was lots of people there, and it was kind of buzzy, and 5 minutes went by, the lunch started, nothing happened. 10 minutes went by, nothing happened, and she started feeling this kind of dread. After 30 years of service, is this lunch? Is this retirement lunch just gonna be lunch? And she kind of dumped her glass, as she was kind of blacked out, dumped her glass, stood up, and said, voice shaking, hi. I'm Renee, I'm Ron's wife. I'm so happy to be here. I know a home Ron, but I don't really know work Ron. Could you tell me something about him? Silence. And then, out of the corner, the new intern said, you know what, I'll say something. And he said, I've been here for 3 weeks, and I've realized already, even though he's not on my team, even though he's on the other side of the hallway, when I have a question, I take it to Ron. Because he stops whatever he's doing, he stands up, and I question when I'm in his presence. And then someone else takes their glass, stands up. You know, Ron is always the one that when we're done with the computer pesticide program and everyone just wants to go home, he gets really excited. Why does he get excited? Because he realizes that's the most fun part of the whole thing. We get to name the acronym. And his personal coup was when he got to name the acronym after his daughter. The Pesticide Reduction Information Act. The PREA. And basically, over the course of this lunch, through this risk, through how she guessed it, she helped the group find itself. She helped unlock the purpose of the lunch. It wasn't gratuitous, it wasn't about her, but she helped the group find its social infrastructure to be able to honor this person. But I said earlier, like, how do you create a gathering that changes how people feel afterwards, not just in the moment? She shifted the norms temporarily of that group. Oh, people notice small acts of kindness. Oh, joy is important here. Oh, I guess I should probably listen to the intern a bit more. But the last thing is, for the last 10 years, she changed the meaning of his work and his impact there for the rest of his life. She changed the story he tells himself because of what happened in that lunch. And at the end, they brought out a sheet cake, and they blew out the candles and they presented a plaque. But the meaning wasn't only in the plaque. It was the symbol of the meaning created with each other. So as we